#10 Ancient Bible Secrets that Unlock Financial Freedom. I used to check my bank account 3 times a day, every morning, every lunch break, every night before bed. The number never changed much, but I kept looking, like somehow the act of checking would make more money appear. I grew up in a house where money was tight, not poverty, but that uncomfortable middle space where you have just enough to survive, but never enough to breathe. My father worked 2 jobs. My mother clipped coupons like her life depended on it. Maybe it did. They never talked about it directly, but I felt it in the silences, in the way conversations stopped when bills arrived, in the tension that hung in the air on the first of every month. So I learned early, money equals safety, and not having it equals fear. I carried that fear into my 20s like a stone in my chest. I got a decent job, made decent money, paid my bills on time, did everything I was supposed to do, but the anxiety never left. Every unexpected expense felt like a catastrophe. Every purchase came with guilt. I was making more than my parents ever did, but I felt just as trapped. One Sunday, I ended up at my grandmother's house. She was old school religious, the kind who kept a worn Bible on her kitchen table, pages marked and folded, notes in the margins written in fading ink. I wasn't particularly spiritual, but she had this calm about her, this peace, even though she'd never had much money either. I asked her once, sitting at that table, "How are you not worried all the time?" She smiled, opened that Bible, and said something I'll never forget. "The answers have always been here. People just stopped reading." I didn't understand. Not then, but she started showing me verses. Not the ones you hear in church, not the feel-good quotes people put on Instagram, the practical ones, the ones about money, work, giving, receiving, the patterns buried in stories thousands of years old. At first, I thought it was just religion optimism, faith without logic, but then I started testing it. Small things at first, principles I could apply, habits I could build, not because I suddenly became religious, but because I was desperate enough to try anything. And slowly, something shifted. The first secret she showed me was about stewardship. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Sounds obvious, right? But I wasn't diligent. I was reactive. I'd get paid, spend, without thinking, then panic when the money ran out. I had no plan, just chaos disguised as survival. So I started planning. Every dollar, every expense. I wrote it down, not obsessively, just intentionally. I knew where my money was going before it left, and for the first time, I felt like I had control. The anxiety didn't vanish overnight, but it loosened its grip. The second secret was about sowing and reaping. Galatians 6-7. A man reaps what he sows. She explained it like this: if you plant tomatoes, you don't get corn. If you plant nothing, you get weeds. Your financial life works the same way. What you do today determines what you harvest tomorrow. I realized I'd been planting nothing. No savings, no investments, no skills that could grow my income. I was just surviving week to week, hoping something would change. So I started sowing differently. 10% of every paycheck went into savings before I touched anything else. Not because I had extra, because I decided it mattered. I took a weekend course to improve my skills at work. I read books about money instead of scrolling my phone before bed. Small seeds, but seeds nonetheless. The third secret was about contentment. Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from love of money, and be content with what you have. That one stung, because I wasn't content. I wanted more, always more. I compared myself to everyone, their cars, their vacations, their lives curated for social media. Contentment didn't mean giving up. Ambition. It meant being grateful for what I already had while working toward more. It meant stopping the comparison game that was draining my soul and my wallet. I deleted Instagram for 3 months, just to detox, and in that silence, I started appreciating what I'd ignored. A roof. Food. Health. Relationships. The basics I'd taken for granted while chasing illusions. The fourth secret was about generosity. Proverbs 11:25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. This one felt counterintuitive. I was barely making it, and she's telling me to give. But she explained it wasn't about the amount. It was about the posture. Scarcity thinking keeps you trapped. Generosity breaks the cycle. So I started small. I bought coffee for a coworker. I gave $20 to someone who needed it more than me. I helped a friend move without expecting anything back. And something strange happened. Opportunities started appearing. A freelance gig from someone I'd helped months ago. A promotion I didn't expect. Small moments of reciprocity I couldn't have planned. Maybe it was karma. Maybe it was God. Maybe it was just the universe reflecting back what I put out. I don't know. But it worked. The fifth secret was about debt. Proverbs 22:7. The borrower is slave to the lender. I had credit card debt. Not crushing, but enough to feel its weight. Minimum payments that kept me in place. Interest that ate away at my progress. I hated that verse because it was true. I was a slave. 2 interest rates. 2 monthly payments. 2 decisions I'd made years ago. So the first declared war on it. Every extra dollar went toward paying it off. I worked extra hours. I sold things I didn't need. It took a year. A long, uncomfortable year. But the day I made that final payment, I felt lighter than I had in a decade. Freedom isn't free, but it's worth the cost. The sixth secret was about work ethic. Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord. I used to do just enough. Clock in, clock out. Minimum effort for minimum pay. But that verse challenged me. What if I treated every task like it mattered? What if I gave my best even when no one was watching? So I started showing up differently. Early. Prepared. Committed. Not to impress anyone, but because mediocrity was costing me more than effort ever would. Within 6 months, I got noticed. More responsibility. More respect. Eventually, more money. Not because I demanded it, because I earned it. The seventh secret was about patience. Ecclesiastes 7:8. The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. I wanted results immediately. I wanted financial freedom by next month. But wealth isn't a lottery ticket. It's a slow build, brick by brick, decision by decision. I had to learn to trust the process, to stay consistent even when I didn't see progress, to plant seeds knowing I might not harvest for years. Patience became my superpower, the thing that separated me from everyone who quit too soon. The eighth secret was about wisdom. Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. I'd been chasing money, but what I needed was wisdom. The ability to make better decisions, to see opportunities others missed, to avoid traps I'd fallen into before. So I started investing in my mind. Books, mentors, courses, conversations with people smarter than me. I treated learning like a job, and the return on that investment? Immeasurable. The ninth secret was about purpose. Proverbs 16:3. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. Money without purpose is empty. I'd been chasing financial freedom, but I didn't know what I'd do with it. So even when I made progress, it felt hollow. I had to ask myself, why do I want this? What's the point of wealth if it doesn't serve something bigger? Once I had a purpose, providing for my family, giving to causes I cared about, building a life of meaning. Money became a tool, not a god. The 10th secret was about faith. Matthew 6:33. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. This wasn't about blind optimism. It was about priorities. When I stopped obsessing over money and started focusing on becoming the kind of person who could handle it, everything changed. I focused on integrity, on discipline, on service, and the money followed. Not because I prayed harder, but because I built a life that attracted it. 5 years later, I'm not rich, not yet, but I'm free. I don't check my bank account 3 times a day anymore. I don't spiral when unexpected expenses hit. I sleep at night. I give freely. I plan confidently. Those 10 secrets didn't make me a millionaire, but they made me someone who could become one. And more importantly, they made me someone at peace. My grandmother passed away last year. At her funeral, I held that worn Bible. All those marked pages, all those underlined verses. And I realized she wasn't just religious, she was wise. The answers were always there, written thousands of years ago, waiting for someone desperate enough to listen. I was that desperate, and it saved my life.